This is 7 News.
Tonight, a car plunges into the Swan River, sparking a desperate rescue. Sharks force nippers out of the water off Scarborough. Praise for the pilot who survived this.
He saved the day. He's pulled off the almost impossible.
And a luxury cruise diverted to save a stricken sailor.
From the studios of 7 Perth, Emmy Kubainski.
Good evening. There was a frantic rescue in the Swan River this morning after a car plunged off the Barrack Street jetty. Nearby police officers risked their own lives, diving into the water to save the trapped driver. Rob Scott reports.
A desperate search for survivors. It was just before 11 this morning when 3 police officers dragged an unconscious man from the bottom of the river. As paramedics worked on him, rescuers returned to the wreckage, told someone else was trapped in the car.
Police divers were going in and the words were there's a second body in there.
For several minutes, confusion reigned as they struggled in the murky depths. With little diving gear, rescuers had to improvise, using firefighters' breathing masks and tanks to check the wreckage. Eventually, they were certain there was no one else in the car.
When you see the body coming out of water and fainted body and just almost dead, and they started CPR, it was devastating.
The driver was taken to Royal Perth Hospital, barely clinging to life. The officers who saved him, reluctant heroes.
You have a chat to you, mate? A bit later. The water here is about 3 or 4 metres deep. It's murky and visibility is near zero. You can imagine what it would have been like for those officers who jumped in to try to find that man. It would have been like fumbling around in the dark for a light switch. Witnesses saw the man drive to the western side of the Barrack Street jetty before watching as the car accelerated over the edge. As it began to sink, the man made it out.
Obviously treading water, and he then dove back under the water it appears, back into the vehicle.
Tonight, he's in a critical condition. Rob Scott, 7 News.
And if you or someone you know needs help, Lifeline has counsellors available on 13 11 14. That number again is 13 11 14. 2 large tiger sharks close to shore forced officials to cancel a children's life-saving carnival in Scarborough this morning. Hundreds of juniors from across the state were ordered out of the water. Tracy Moran reports.
As many as 1,000 junior lifesavers on Scarborough Beach as 2 large tiger sharks are spotted 150 metres from the shore. Competitors were rushed from the water.
Were you scared? No. In the water I probably would have been.
Beaches from Scarborough up to Trigg were closed after a 4 metre and a 3.5 metre tiger shark was seen just after 8 this morning and again almost 2 hours later. The shark helicopter, fisheries and lifesavers scoured the water. Juniors from as far as Geraldton and Bunbury were forced onto the sand, barely getting their feet wet on competition day.
Keep going, keep going!
By 10 a.m, the junior carnival was called off.
If they're further out, you wouldn't worry, but because they are within a certain distance, it's just, as I said before, it's a duty of care that we have, so you can't afford to take any risks.
Lifesavers say large schools of bait fish seen swimming in the area most likely attracted the tiger sharks close to shore.
Tracy Moran, 7 News.
There's been a drive-by shooting in South Perth near Wesley College. Kate Smithers is at the scene. Kate, police don't believe anyone was hurt.
Emmy, that's right. Police have confirmed several shots were fired. A spent cartridge has been found on the side of the road, but it's not known if anyone was in the home behind me. No one's reported a gunshot injury or been taken to hospital. Now, neighbours on Garden Street raised the alarm about 10 o'clock last night. They've told me they saw a man being assaulted on the street and pushed into a car about an hour earlier. They claim that same car returned and that's when they heard 3 shots. Now, police haven't been able to verify those claims of an earlier bashing. They say a black hatchback and a white ute were seen in the area around the time of the shooting. They want anyone with information to call Crime Stoppers. Emmy.
OK, thanks, Kate. Kate Smithers there. The pilot of a news chopper which crashed in the Swan Valley yesterday has been praised for saving the lives of his passenger and himself. Paul Debenham used the energy in the rotor blades to carry out what experts have described as a perfect crash landing.
Hovering 30 metres above the scene of an emergency, chopper pilot Paul Debenham reacted to his own emergency in seconds.
What Paul's done is he's saved the day. He's pulled off almost the impossible by conducting an auto rotation from 100 feet at very low airspeed.
Auto rotation is a technique used when power is lost. The pilot uses the energy in the rotor blades to slow the rate of descent and make a controlled landing.
You have to react with lightning speed, and that's what he did.
Investigators are still trying to work out just what went wrong. David Grimes, the chief pilot from Heli West, says the chopper didn't roll right over. It rolled on its side, and if the ground wasn't uneven, it would have been a perfect landing.
He's managed to guide the helicopter onto the ground, missing power lines, people, trees and a fence.
The Channel 10 cameraman inside the chopper, Adam Dalmage, says he owes his life to the pilot.
And if I had to roll one more time, I wouldn't be here.
Paul Debenham is a Grade 1 instructor with 40 years' experience.
Everyone survived, and that's because of his training.
Tracy Moran, 7 News.
A house fire has spread to bush, sparking a fire emergency in Perth's north. The house on Duffy Terrace in Woodvale was empty when the blaze started about an hour and a half ago. A spot fire has erupted in the nearby Yellowgonga Regional Park. About 20 firefighters are battling the flames. And a bushfire in Nangara Pine Plantation north of Wanneroo is creating a lot of smoke. Drivers are being warned to take care. Emergency repairs to fix Royal Perth Hospital's air conditioning will take at least a week. The hospital's emergency department is on standby to evacuate after 2 of the hospital's 3 cooling systems broke down. A plan is in place to move patients to other hospitals and cancel surgeries if necessary before replacement equipment is installed.
These machines are old. They're like an old Mercedes, you know. They've been pampered and cared for all these years, and they're reaching the end of their life.
They promised before the last election they would renovate RPH, and they haven't done anything there.
The government insists patient safety has not been compromised. Rescuers are racing to reach a French sailor who's been stranded in the Southern Ocean for 2 days. An Australian cruise ship has been diverted to find the stricken yachtsman who's battling rough seas in a life raft off Tasmania. Tony Gregg's wife has given an emotional tribute to her late husband at a memorial service at the SCG. The cricket commentator's family was joined by Prime Minister Gillard and the Australian team to celebrate his life. New research has shown how some children diagnosed with autism are able to overcome the disorder as they grow older. It's shown how therapy can help children overcome the neurological disorder, but researchers have stopped short of calling it a cure. The government is promising to enforce the country's toughest parole conditions if it's re-elected. Up to a quarter of released prisoners would be deemed serious offenders and fitted with a GPS tracker, including domestic violence offenders and arsonists. The parole board or a judge will be able to order closer monitoring.
Queensland and rolled out in New South Wales, which
they have to make an assessment on a case-by-case basis. As I've said, the detail that we have has not been hammered out as to how this scheme will work.
The WA Greens launched their campaign today, 7 weeks out from the state election, announcing they'll push for early morning public transport to be free. The countdown is on to US President Barack Obama's second inauguration on Tuesday morning our time. 3 days of celebrations have begun in Washington as President Obama prepares to be sworn in for 4 more years.
Perth's #1, Australia's #1.